Hey guys, so today we're going to create the database for our simple registration form. So here, let's just create the database name. Let's call it registrations. And then here, let's create a table. Let's call it users. And we're going to capture this or store it inside the table. So I think we need 6 columns. So here let's start with the ID, and this will be an auto increment and a primary key. Next, the name, it's a varying character. Then the email address. Next is the password. And then here we have the date created. So this should be a daytime. And then also the date updated, which is also a daytime. Let's save. So here, what I'm going to do now is we are going to create a script. So we are going to use Ajax for this, so we don't need to reload the page. And we are going to use the JavaScript fetch API. And then let's just add an ID of form. Now here let's add an event listener. So once there's a submit on the document, we're going to, so for now let's log. So register, so you can see the log here, but what we are going to do is let's remove the submission. So as you can see, it didn't refresh the page. Going to remove its default behavior, so using the prevent default. And then here let's get the data, so the form data, which is the email. Let's start with the name. Let's get element by ID, so the name. Next should be the email. Then use the same function, get element by ID. So let's try to log the values and see if it works. Refresh. Let's submit. So there should be a valid email. Oops, this one we should use that value. So that should return the value of the input, as you can see. Now going to use or check here if the elements or the values are empty, and then we don't trigger the submission. So we'll just use that length function or property. So once they are set, we can use the fetch API. So here we can paste our file that processes the form. Then inside is, let's set the method to post and set the headers, the content type, just use application JSON, and then the body would be the form data. So here we have the name, so the email, and then this one. Now here we'll add the then function. So the response we get from the server is, let's return, transform it to JSON. So this will give us the real values. And then inside the then, another then, would be here. This is where we process the data. So let's select the data for now. So here let's convert the data to JSON. Then here we'll have the response or the real data. So if we here we have an error, let's remove that one. Fresh. Let's see. Go to network. So we need to create the URL first. So create the backend folder, and then here inside we'll create the register.php files. As you can see here, there's an error on the front end. So let's try to check. So let's just echo here some values. So now going to do is we'll connect to our database. So let's create the connection.php file, and inside is, let's get the server name. So locally you have the localhost as default, the username is root, and the password is empty. And then here let's wrap it in a try or catch statement. So using the PDO class, let's set the host to the server name, and then the database name, which is registrations, and we'll set the username. And then next is we'll set PDO error mode to exception. So set attribute, and then PDO TTR error mode set to error mode exception. And then here we can just echo connected, or connected successfully, and then here echo failed, and then we'll get the error message fresh. So here let's include the connection file. Fresh, let's try. So as you can see, connected successfully. So now we can use that connection variable, and then here we can remove so we can actually put this inside the function, and this function, it should return the connection variable. So here we can call the function, store it in a connection variable. So end of line 7. So here you can see we have an object, means it is working and we are able to connect to the database. Now next step is we'll get the data from this one, the payload. So let's try to use post if we can use. There's no data. So here instead of post, you can use, let's try get. If it is works, nothing. So So here we can use this one, JSON decode, and we'll get the stream or the input data from the user. So here, as you can see, we have an array of those fields or form data. So let's grab it. So I store it in a variable. So the name, the other two fields, then here insert the data to database. So SQL, so let's insert into the users table and the values in, let's set the fields here, then here the values, so the variables in the top of the SQL. So the now it should be the current timestamp. So let's execute the command and let's refresh. Try define connection. So there should be connection. Try again. We have an error. So here as you can see, all the column count. So let's add now here. So actually let's add another now for the date updated. So if we refresh, as you can see here, we have the data. So what I'm going to do now is for this field we're going to hash this one. So it is, I mean, in terms of security, it will add random string. So if we try and refresh the database, as you can see, in the value is being encoded. So we can also add here another check or if statement. We don't allow adding multiple email or user in our registration form. So basically you just need to create a statement. So here we can select users where this field is equals to the inputted field. So here let's execute, and then let's get the row, and then here we can count how many rows. So that means if there's a count, means that user exists. So let's try. As you can see, user exists again. So we have an error in our F. So let's try to dump the row, see if, so it should be a vault. So actually we can just if row instead of count. So if we refresh the database, you can see we have added that new user. So here we can do the else and move this inside, and then can return a message. So the success is false and the message would be email already exists. And then here let's wrap them in a try catch statement. let's copy this one, paste here below, and then here let's just get the message of what the error will be, and inside the success let's add a message that we have successfully added it to our database. Can use the email variable, or maybe you can use the name, and then successfully added. So fresh test register, so as you can see email already exists. Side one, this is a new email and it was added, but here should set to true. Now in our front end we are going to add a success message, so let's can use a dev here. This is where we store the messages we receive from the server. So let's add an ID of today status container, then here we can just if data that success, so this is that success coming from our database. Let's grab the status container, then let's set the inner HTML to empty, or you can use the p tag, and then class would be response status, and then the response status here it's field or success. So if it's a success, let's use success, then here fail, then here let's get the message from the server. So let's remove that one, and then let's hide it after 5 seconds. So use the set timeout, and then inner HTML we'll just use an empty instead of hiding it. So if we refresh, then let's try to register, so successfully added. Let's just update the colors for success. I think we can use green, so here we can use fail, color would be red, and then for the success it will be green. And then also let's align it to the center and add a font size of, so let's just use the registration form element 15px. So let's try again. So successful, so it didn't reflect. So for this one I'm going to add here the time, so it will, it loads a new CSS file. As you can see, so email already accessed, so it's looking good now. So here we can actually remove, or for now we'll use the element. This will be an element, and then the value will just going to pass it here, name l.value, and then here we'll get the value or name l.value, and the reason is here once it's a success inside these this one we're going to reset the data, so basically emptying. So if it's a success, then we're going to set to a default which is empty. So let's refresh. So let's try to add, for now let's remove all of this and add gender, password. So as you can see, the fields are removed, or the old values are removed. So basically that's it. So we have created a very nice or simple registration form and able to connect to MySQL database.